Kinds of Kindness is an anthology that has three different stories in it, and that's probably all I'm going to give you because this is a very hard movie to explain. Like, this review is probably going to be pretty short compared to my other, movie reviews here, because I don't really want to explain to you what all these different stories are and what they really talk about, because I don't really want to spoil it for you at that point, because I feel like it really is an interesting experience and a very fascinating experience to go into if you kind of go in blind like I did. Like, as I was watching, I was like, this experience is something that I haven't really seen in a long time. Because as I said, it's an anthology. Like, you don't really have films like this anymore. Having three different short stories is really cool. It's kind of like, a Stephen King novel where he has like these different novels and they have so many different short stories in it. And each story uses the same actors but in different roles. And as I said, it's really cool to get an anthology film because you don't really get these in, the movie medium anymore. Like, I'm not sure when is the last time we had an anthology movie in a long time, like with the same actors playing in this movie in different roles in each of these three stories. Like, it's something we haven't seen for a while here. And I will do a ranking of all the stories. I'm not going to go into detail, as I said, without spoiling it, but I will say my ranking's pretty simple. I feel like the first one's the best, then it gets, it gets worse from there on, from the second one to the third one. But as I don't think any of them are bad, but I will say it does take a big dip quality wise once you do hit that third story, because I didn't feel like there was much to really attach to or care about in that third one. And it didn't seem to have the same amount as energy as the first two stories. Like, the first story I thought was really funny, had a cool beat of energy to it, and the second story had a really fascinating beat of energy to it. There's a really interesting mystery going on there, and the third one, it's interesting at some points, but I feel like it just took a big dip, as I said. And I will say the score of this movie was great. I feel like it's the same guy who did Poor Thing. I think his name is Jerskin Fendrix. He just hit a lot of piano notes in here, and I feel like they were all really well. And there's a little bit of choir in here too. I feel like there's a little bit of choir opera in here alongside the piano. I thought that score was great. This is of course directed by the one and only Yorgos Lanthimos, and he continues to be one of my favorite directors working today, with this being great, Poor Things being absolutely terrific. He had The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Favorite. They're all great. They're all very fascinating. They're all very different. He's very good at making very different films, but very, unaccessible films for the general audience. I'd say this one is not accessible for the general audience. I feel like Poor Things is the most accessible film that he has, alongside The Favorite. I might rank them, but I still haven't seen his non-English films yet. I do want to see those, but I still haven't seen them because I don't really have anywhere to watch them. I'm not sure if they're really on anything. And let's talk about the cast for a minute. I'm going to talk about the, couple major people in here. And since they all play like three different roles in this movie, I'm only going to talk about how everyone was as a whole, not really going to go into every single role. Let's talk about Emma Stone. Thought she was really great here, but she's not really the lead. I feel like she's just the main supporting person here, the main supporting actress here. Thought she was great. I don't think she's going to really get any awards consideration for this. It's not really an awards film, but if I could see anyone getting awards consideration, it would be Jesse Plemons. Thought Jesse Plemons was absolutely terrific here. He's the true lead of this movie. For each of the stories, he's kind of the big lead, but I will say Emma Stone kind of takes the front seat in the third story. But he is the main lead in the first two stories here. He's absolutely terrific. I thought he was hilarious in the first two stories. Man, he was so funny in this movie. Jesse Plemons knows how to hit the comedic beats very well, and Yorgos Lanthimos knows how to get the best performance out of each one of his actors. So I thought Jesse Plemons just did a terrific job. I'm not sure if he'd get an Oscar nomination for this since it's so early in the year, but I would like to see it. I feel like he is pretty deserving, playing three different parts in this big kind of anthology movie, and it's a very different part from each time. Like, each time he looks like a totally different person. You even see people like saying, is that Matt Damon in this movie? I mean, it kind of looks like him for a little bit in like the third story. Like, the third story, he kind of looks like a drug dealer, which I thought was pretty funny, which is, interesting. But yeah, I thought he was easily the best part, easily, one of his best performances of all time. Willem Dafoe is pretty funny in this one. He is one of the smaller parts. Hong Chow, one of the smaller parts in here. I thought that she was pretty good. Mamadou Ati, I thought he was also pretty good. I knew him from Elemental. He played Wade in Elemental, so it's cool to see he has a pretty interesting part to play in this one. So all the cast is pretty good, but Jesse Plemons is easily my MVP. I love him even more. It just proves, every single movie that Jesse Plemons is good to great, and this one proves that point once again. And the pace of this is about 2 hours and 45 minutes. and I will say it is too long. It's too long. I wish it had, I wish it just cut off like 15 minutes, maybe being like 2.5, maybe like 2:20 a little bit, because I feel like there's a little bit you could have cut from the second and third chapter. I feel like most of the third chapter you could have cut, maybe the second chapter like cut out like 5 minutes. Third chapter you could have cut out like 15 minutes or something like that. But I will say I thought the first chapter is really perfect. That's where you really get to the high of the movie. That's where it really hits each point for me in particular, and it really hits those beats for me, like the comedic beats, the emotional beats, the really shocking beats. Like there's one moment in here in the first chapter where Jesse Plemons' character stubs his toe on purpose, and it got me. It got me screaming. I was like, no, no, don't do that, man. But yeah, there's a little bit to be cut here. But if the first story was like a whole movie, that would have been a really interesting movie to see that all play out in like a two hour span. But as a whole, I think it is too long. But overall, Kinds of Kindness is another Yorgos Lanthimos banger for me. Another one that I thought was great from him. It is a very different film. It's an anthology film, as I said, so it's less accessible for the general audience. But Yorgos Lanthimos doesn't make films for the general audience. His films are weird, feel full of very R-rated things, sexual content. Very stuff that you can't really describe a lot to other people. It's not really good to describe his films to other people. But I thought this one really hit its marks in the first chapter and most of the second chapter. Third chapter took a big dip, but it still was pretty decent. So Kinds of Kindness, I'm gonna give it a low 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed this one, but I don't think it hits the highs of something like a Poor Things, The Favorite, or The Lobster. I kind of see it in the level of The Killing of a Sacred Deer, but I really did enjoy it. It's gonna be interesting to see how it does on a rewatch though, because it is an anthology. I don't really rewatch anthologies, but I'll probably give it another watch in theaters. But yeah, I enjoyed this one a decent bit. I'll leave your thoughts down below if you enjoyed Kinds of Kindness, and if you enjoyed my review, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.